Thurston County Board of County Commissioners check-in for Thursday, June 3rd, 2021. It is 10:33 a.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards. To his left is County Manager Mayor Chavez. We have Clerk of the Board Amy Davis here, and that's it. Commissioner Mejia is excused. So we have just our standing 2 items, any reports on external boards and commissions, and then other commissioner items. So I guess we can start with Commissioner Edwards and any particular reports on external boards and commissions.
I don't have anything of note to report on those boards and commissions. Just normal routine activities, nothing exceptional went on any of my boards and commission activities. Other than sometimes I had a hard time getting on because I tried to do some of them on the Zoom and wasn't able to participate adequately on all of them. Some yes, some no. But nothing was on fire.
Okay. Yeah, on my formal assignments, I don't know that there was anything of note. I did have a meeting yesterday. I'll just throw this out here because it may be coming the board's direction with some of the stakeholders. So you know how we had our the RIA 13 watershed plan that we thought was going to be agreed, and then at the last minute there was one stakeholder that didn't agree. So now it's flipped to ecology for quote unquote rulemaking.
Right.
And some of the stakeholders. So the other RIAs like 14 and 15 were much more of a mess. Total disagreement, many stakeholders not in agreement, but 13 was really close to the finish line and they thought they had it. So
I think the building industry had an issue on the proposed language. I believe the board agreed with the
well, that and something else
okay.
that wasn't even, it was a little surprising to everyone, I guess. But anyway, the point is, because that plan got so close and had such a good process and so many community stakeholders that got 99.9% of the way to the finish line, and because it's not clear what ecology will do in the absence of the consensus approval, they may take that plan and use it as a template, or they may not. And we would like to, meaning these stakeholders that talked to me, said that they would like us to encourage ecology to not try to reinvent the wheel. Like, maybe a few tweaks are needed or whatever, but please take the work that we've done and incorporate most of it or all of it. So they're putting together some talking points and maybe asking stakeholders to sign a letter. They think that the different stakeholders will have different spins, so we don't want to just do one letter. They want all the different stakeholders who are willing to craft a letter, then they'll give us the talking points to say, hey, please use the work, we put a lot of work into this, and please use what's there that as a starting point for what it is that you're gonna come up with, because to not do that in 13 would be a mistake. So just a preview, and that seemed like a reasonable, since the board approved the plan, it seemed like that we would be amenable to that. So if I get that, I think we're gonna try to work on that next week because we think that ecology is going to take quite a bit longer, but technically they've tried to set a June 30th deadline. So in theory, it'd be good to have this to ecology before the end of the month. So that was one thing I had. Yesterday, I also went to Rochester Grand Mound Chamber, and I thought there were a couple things that would be interesting for the board to hear. I was very excited to report, and they were very excited to hear that one of their own high school Rochester graduates was hired as our criminal justice program manager. I don't know if Commissioner Edwards knew that yet.
No,
The person that was selected is a Rochester high school graduate who'd been working for the state of Washington on criminal justice policy.
good.
And they were very excited about that. Kim Fry, the superintendent, knew the student.
Oh, cool.
Because it was probably about 10 years ago she was there. So yeah, that was pretty neat. And what was neat about it was it connected. So the chamber had given a scholarship to a young lady last year who was at Oregon State. So they kind of had a report from her. She zoomed in from Corvallis to say, here's what I'm studying, here's what my freshman year's been like.
How cool is that?
And I was like, okay, so here's another, I was able to kind of tie it to another person from Rochester going on to doing bigger and better things. So that was kind of cool. they asked me about, our meetings, like, they're interested in having that option that we were gonna incorporate for the once a month evening meeting. And so I kind of gave them the status report that, we kind of got we were all agreed to do that, but because of some other aspects of that policy, we're kind of on hold there, and they understood all that. But what they'd like to do is, this kind of ties to like what we're doing with our meetings here, if we can continue to keep Zoom access, they'd like to have, like when we have our once a month, 6 PM meeting or whatever, they'd like to set up in Sweet Hall like a Zoom portal where people can just come and give us public testimony from, say, Sweet Hall through Zoom at an evening meeting. And I thought, well, we're still deciding how we're gonna do hybrid and all that, but I'd share that with the board, that there'd be that possibility and interest from them on that.
Let me ask, and I am a Neanderthal on technology, so I just know that they do have a process called a portal, in which apparently you can have a portal and I can have a portal. It's kind of like an iPad, and I could have mine sitting here, and it can see the whole room and everybody in it, and you can be in Washington DC and have one sitting there, and you can see their whole room and everybody in it. Is anybody aware of what I'm talking about?
I've seen it on TV, the ads, but I've never used it.
Okay, and I suppose Megan ought to be here.
It's Brian.
Is Brian, do you know all about it, what a portal is?
No.
Well, this came up at a meeting last night that I was at with the communication center. And are we going to be going back to in-person meetings? Can we have an option of in-person and remote for different reasons that individual members might have? And it sounded like it was too complicated to come up with that solution to that it either had to be one or the other than you could do a call in on a phone call. But I was asking some technology knowledgeable people about that portal thing, because same kind of a thing.
So are you saying like, if you say you're in a meeting room and they don't have the big screens all installed,
Right,
but you wanted to do a hybrid meeting?
yeah,
This portal would be maybe a more portable option.
yes.
To do a hybrid meeting in any locale, I
And,
guess.
and it actually covers everybody in the room. I don't know how it does it, but somehow it's got built-in cameras, and you start talking and it actually turns to tie. Without the machine turning, somehow, something internally.
It's the new, I think what you're talking about is the new, Facebook has a new tablet that if you move, if you keep talking, for some reason the camera follows you.
It follows you. yeah.
Follows you, so you don't have to be fixed on front of it.
And if you want to give a little demonstration on
Right, so it follows you, so I see what you're saying, yeah, I see what you're saying, there is a tablet that I've seen.
and it's pretty reasonably priced, I mean, a couple
That I've seen,
$100.
yeah, what I've seen is commercials, I haven't seen it in person. There is a tablet in front of
actually
you,
seen it in person,
somebody
so-
just stands and do whatever, moves around, and the camera follows, they move and captures the sound. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
I think it is, but also it picks up the whole room somehow. And it's all kind of in focus and not all distorted, that one guy's real
There
fat,
you
the
go,
other
Brian.
guy's skinny, so.
New project.
Take a look at what
I can look
the
at
option is.
And it's pretty reasonable.
Calling it a smart camera.
So one portal would be sitting here at a meeting. Then we could have another, maybe a staff person, take that portal, the other portal, I guess is what it's called, down to that remote location. And then we wouldn't be jammed up about having a meeting off campus without prior notification, all those kind of things. It would maybe alleviate all of those headaches. So I just bring that up.
Yeah, it'd be worth,
as
looking at what.
worth looking into, because if it worked
Cause I think,
for
yeah, I think that's,
Rochester, maybe.
yeah, I think there's a lot of, like I say, like, we're kind of set up well here, but as we go to our different meetings, BHO, Iron City Trans stuff, means like, it's all different, you know, there's steady, right?
Yeah.
Some people can, you know, steady can be a big, if you're in Rochester, and you need to get to Yelm, I mean,
That's a big deal.
it's a big deal, and maybe you don't wanna miss it, but you can't get to Yelm, you know, and like, so having that option, having these hybrid, if we have technology to make the hybrid meetings smoother and better, that's gonna be a big plus.
So I think, you know, here, that's what we're practicing here. So what we're saying is, if we go, let's say if you go to Rochester, bring that equipment to allows for the virtual participants to participate, right? And that's how the portal, I think, works. Because when the board goes to, let's say, Rochester for a meeting, we just have the TVs transmitting live that meeting, but there is not a Zoom virtual. And I think that's where probably what might be an option.
I'm just trying to simplify the participation, that's all.
The portal is just the camera. You still have to have the apps like Zoom or
Right.
GoToMeeting or WebEx, or it's just the camera.
Well, I'm not gonna disagree with you, because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, the thing I saw is just one outfit has one portal, and they're sitting over here in New York, and the other outfit has one here, and it looks like you're in the same room with everybody.
Isn't that the commercial where the daughter's like cooking dinner and the dad and getting ready for her date or something, and the dad's like helping her cook the meal
Yeah,
and
it
on the
moves,
portal,
they
and
move around, yeah.
I think that's the ad that was on a lot last summer.
New project, right?
I just wanna make use of, even though I don't understand technology, I wanna utilize technology to help us communicate with our community, that's all.
I just think that, you know, as I think through my work schedule, and I think commissioners are a great, we're a great laboratory because we attend all sorts of types of meetings, you know, we on campus, off campus, small groups, big groups, you know, Wasatch people from all over Washington State, other people are from all over South County. I mean, we experience every kind of meeting environment. That kind of there is. So as I think through my work schedule, I can just see some meetings should just go back to in-person, period. Other ones should never go back to in-person, like they should stay Zoom, you know, like Wasatch stuff. I mean, you know, and I mean, you know, that's, why would you have people traveling to, you know, Olympia for stuff from Spokane, you know, on routine matters where you're just sharing information about legislative status, you know, on a weekly basis, stuff like that. Or, and then there's other ones where you really need a hybrid. I mean, to be in a perfect world. So I think there is gonna be a need to have flexible technologies to kind of make every meeting the best for the participants that it can be.
What bothers me as much as anything on these remote meetings that we participate in whatever fashion we're participating in, is that I don't like to interrupt somebody. And if I can't see that you're talking,
Right.
and you can't see my hand pop up because you got 42 other little squares on your, it just inhibits the communication. Where, like right here, I mean, there's the three of us on screen right now. And so somebody could see that I'm talking or you're talking, if there's remotely. It's a little easier to make it work. And I just, well, we'll see what Brian comes up with, but I really.
Yeah, I just did thumbs up.
Okay. Okay.
All right, good. Well, then let's just go to commissioner items then.
Brian, what, something?
I was just going to say, I can follow up with IT, but this is a really good conversation. By the way, Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer. In our 2021 communications plan, we have actually allocated some time to look into how we can expand our hybrid meetings. Because last year, someone from Rochester had mentioned wanting to be able to do something like a portal at Sweet Hall, where they can provide testimony to the board instead of having to come down to the courthouse or log in on Zoom, because a lot of people weren't at a public hearing or something like that. So we were looking at maybe trying to create like some satellite offices, like maybe like with the library or something like that, where people can go there and provide testimony from the board via a computer. But this new information, I'll have to follow up with IT on to see about the portal and the tablet and camera and stuff like that. But this is something we are looking at.
Now, the way I think about it is that if my relationship with the other participants matters, then I'd rather be in person. But if my relationship to the other participants doesn't matter, and I attend a lot of meetings like that, then I'd rather be virtual. I mean, I'd rather just click in if I'm just trying to get information. Department of Ecology is putting on a thing about some new program or whatever, and I don't care who's there. I'm not there to talk to or meet the people there. What a wonderful thing to be able to sit, be home and then meeting's done and I tuck my kids in instead of having to drive from, So I mean, it's really valuable if we can find the right hybrid approaches.
I would ask Ryan though, you said something about for next year, can't we go faster? I mean, can't you look at, I don't know, Home Depot or wherever they sell something like this and kind of get a sense of a little, sooner than next year about something like this?
He was talking about this year.
Yeah, this year. We're going to be looking into it this year. Hopefully bringing a proposal forward for how we can do that.
2021, that's what he was talking.
Exactly.
Okay, no, good, sorry.
All right, commissioner items. Back to you.
Okay, we talked a little bit about this morning, this bugaboo we're dealing with. But I just think it's so crucial that we get all of the information whenever we are making decisions. Now, what does all of the information mean? Well, I don't think all means everything in the dictionary here might be covered, but all sides and possibilities about a particular issue we should always hear about. Now, a lot of times staff will bring us something and it'll have pros and cons on the AIS, and that's good. I just want to make sure all those issues are covered. Again, I want that information as early as I can get it, but if it's anything at all that would require any kind of legal advice, I want legal to get it as soon as possible too. So I know a lot of groups that have, say, monthly meetings or weekly meetings. The information is provided to them well ahead of time, and there's kind of like no surprises. Now, I know that doesn't work if we're facing a snowstorm or some emergent situation, but that's kind of a bugaboo of mine about making sure that we get legal to give us at least some assistance, because along with that assistance comes some protection, that we consulted legal, that we didn't do something maybe inappropriate, and maybe we didn't know it was inappropriate. Maybe staff wouldn't know it was inappropriate, but if they had time to look it over and they knew, they could say, well, you can't do that, or if you do that, you have to do this. So I just kind of want to re-emphasize how important it is that we always have legal and we get the information as soon as we can, and legal gets it as soon as they can so they can review it, because we don't know what question we're going to ask if we don't have the information to formulate the question. So you've heard me say that quite a bit.
So are we, we have heard you say that quite a bit. So, Ramiro, are we, my impression was that we were gonna kind of powwow with Elizabeth about
Tuesday morning.
resources and what,
I have touched base with Elizabeth, and she agrees that where the most robust conversation occurs is during agenda setting. And she's gonna make an attempt to participate on that, and we're gonna start hopefully next week for her to be part of that. Next week also, at the end of the agenda setting, I have an executive session to touch base on a couple of items with the board, including legal opinions and exactly what the Commissioner was stating. So just for Elizabeth to hear, and perhaps also for the board to hear, her reaction to that as well. So I have touched base with Elizabeth again, and she's gonna make the best that she can to participate on the agenda settings, because that's where most of the conversation and the questions and answers occur.
Okay, sounds good on that.
You have another one?
I have one
We'll
thing.
just take turns kind of.
Yeah, let's just go back and forth. I got one more thing, really, that's all I got, is, another meeting I had was with, Ralph Monroe, Bob Barnes, and, the new Parks Director, and Lucy Mills from our Public Works. And they, Bob and Ralph had a kind of a series of proposals or requests for park projects that we consider. So I don't know where that process would go, if we would think about, what that process looks like of getting those types of suggestions before the board for consideration on the next year's, about updating our parks project list, or just putting them in the mix for consideration, so to speak. Some of it is about, and so there's 3 or 4 of those. There's also a request about, they'd like to name, they have this, and I've heard this for a while, the piece of the Ralph Monroe Trail that continues over behind McLean School, and the McLean kids do all the plantings and they do all the maintenance and everything. They would like us to name that piece of the trail, McLean School Trail or McLean Elementary School Trail. So I know we just got into trail naming there last month on Rainier. So that's just something for us to maybe take up. And then those are the 2 big ones. And then they're also, ultimately they've been working on this Capitol to Capitol trail vision, where you go all the way from where you can walk all the way from Capitol Building to Capitol Forest. And there are chunks, they're already working with Olympia on a big chunk through Grass, it's called Grass Lakes Refuge, I guess, there, kind of east of the Evergreen Parkway and Ralph Monroe Trail, but then the county would be involved in kind of what's west of there. And so there's some properties, even though they're in the county, they're actually owned by the city of Olympia, so we would have to work with them about, they call it Allison Springs, I want to say, that it kind of shoots off from McLean School, and it goes to a place where the kids can walk.
The city of Olympia has those pumps right there, yeah.
Yeah.
The trail that goes down the hill.
Yeah. So
I
anyway.
walked that many times.
Yeah, so anyway, that would be ultimately, I think, a piece of this capital to capital thing. They've already been working on the other side with the State Department of Transportation of how to get, like, apparently they've got the DOT's agreement to get them over the 101 there with a kind of a separated walkway type thing, where you have, kind of the concrete barriers, and then you have a walking path that would get you across that. So and then at that point, then you're almost home free, you're almost to the forest. And the state is gonna bring one of the state trails down to connect up. So I mean, it's being done in little chunks, and the county's will have to be involved in a couple little pieces of it. It's really exciting. We brainstormed about how to have a meeting with Sam Hunt or something about how we could ask the state to kind of support this effort, because there's a lot of ins and outs that go with creating that kind of a trail. So anyway, we talked about that.
My suggestion would be for them to formalize that request, to send actually a formal letter to the board requesting adding those projects to the CIP.
Okay.
And that will be, then at that point, I will take that formal request and start working with Public Works to see how we can.
Yeah, Lucy so one of the things we talked about was, how on the Evergreen Parkway, the left side, if you're looking at the map, which I guess is the west side, is the really nice, smooth, developed trail. But there's also a trail on the east side. It's kind of bumpy and rough, and they would like to be able to have that become improved.
Does
Lucy
it have
would.
like gravel or anything on it? Or is
It's
all-
mostly paved, but it's all.
Oh, it is.
Trail, but it's invaded by roots.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah,
roots,
roots
all
are-
gotta be ground down.
Oh, yeah.
So Lucy, though, was talking about how, I don't understand exactly, but something about that piece is connected to the county road right away versus the other piece. And so I was asking her, well, does that mean that it could be funded through different means or whatever? And she thought that might be true because of, it's in a different legal status on the right side, where the trail lies on the right side versus where the trail lies on the left side of Evergreen Parkway, in terms of it being part of the county road right away. Versus I'm not sure where the other side status is, but anyway, there's a nuance there to be explored in terms of how that would get funded or what list it needs to be on.
In fact, this section of the trail, we ended up signing that as a primitive because of how rough that is. And we did a little bit of improvements because at the time that trail touches down, there was a little bit of a concern on the side distance. So we worked with Ralph and Bob Barnes to fix the side distance coming out of that trail leading to the roadway. So that will be my suggestion for them to formalize that request.
I'll have them do that. The biggest one I think probably is they're advocating for I guess there's a piece of county property right next to, on the east side of the bottom of the Ralph Monroe Trail, where there's like between Overholse and Parkway, there's an old fire station across the street. They say there's county property there where it would
We
be
sold that, I thought.
okay.
I thought.
Yeah, you're right, we sold that one. If they're talking about the same one, Commissioner was right, we sold that one.
I thought they showed me the map and it showed us as the owner.
That's where
but
we.
maybe it's
used
an
to
old
be
map.
It used to be the extension, remember?
Yeah, and we.
It's just an empty property across the street from the fire station.
Okay, well then I don't know.
Anyway, trailhead parking is what they're advocating for that spot. So anyway, I'll follow up with and see if they can formalize that. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Dr. William Barnett down in Tenino sold his property. And he paid the county an amount of money back in 2016, I think, as a part of an application permit process. I asked the question during one of our planning sessions, within the year, I think, what have you accomplished on Mr. Barnett's proposal? Because he's on our list, if you will.
He's the preliminary, right? Preliminary docket?
That's in the official document.
It's on the official docket.
Okay, anyway, he's on the docket, okay? Been on the docket for a while, apparently, but paid a pretty good fee. Now, I don't have the number in front of me, and maybe part of that fee was his architectural design or concept thing, or maybe a survey or something. I really don't know. I don't have that in front of me. But he put out quite a bit of money, let's just say $10,000 back then, with the hope of getting his project done so that he could settle up on his estate, working on his estate. He's no spring chicken. He's like 84 or 5 or something like that. I don't know how old he is, but he's old. He told me he was old. He probably told me how old he was, I don't remember. But he got nowhere from Thurston County. And that was the answer I got back from staff when I asked the question. What have you done? Well, we haven't done anything yet. Well, what did we do with his money that we took in?
What was his application? Was this about cluster development or something else?
I think it did have something to do with cluster
He
development.
wanted a policy change on cluster development.
Yeah.
Like what the minimum requirements were.
Would be and all that kind of stuff. He made a proposal. We accepted his money and said, well, you're on the docket or whatever, and we're gonna look into it. But as far as I know, yet today, nothing's been done. And I don't know why nothing's been done, whether they were too busy, but if nothing's been done, why do we take somebody's money? Is he eligible to have his money refunded? I don't know the answer to that. this brings me to another topic that you've heard me talk about, which is a third-party planner. And why we can't have our staff work on things like adjustments to the daycare process, so that citizens are gonna benefit by having daycare closer to their work. Work on the HCP. Have them doing that type of stuff and let these individuals that are moving forward with a project hire their own third-party planner. And allow that to move forward under our review, supervision, whatever you want to call it. So I just think there is a good process to be had by having that as part of our regular policy. We did it, we've done it in the past, and other jurisdictions do it commonly. So why can't we do the same thing and become more responsive to the community needs? So I don't know what my seatmates feel about that, if they don't think it's worth pursuing at all, or it doesn't seem to get anywhere. You know, we have went through a virus and a whole bunch of extenuating circumstance, but I'm using Dr. Barnett as an example of, we may or may not have wanted to go along with his cluster housing. There was reasons for it, reasons against it. That comes in front of us at some point to where we say yes or no.
Yeah.
But if it never gets there, what's the point? And how come we take money from an individual and don't do anything? And should we give him the money back? And
Couple of questions there. County manager's hand was up.
oh, I'm sorry.
See,
But maybe he's got some. for you.
I see a couple of items related to the third-party planner. I reported on Tuesday when you raised that item on Tuesday, the briefing is coming up.
Yeah, and that has to do with the permit fees and stuff like that too.
It's all
It's all
encompassing.
encompassing.
It's coming, it's two briefings there, I've been organized into that.
Okay.
So related to the third-party planner, so that is coming up, and that will give the board the opportunity to see where they want to go with that option. Also, and before I go back to Dr. Burnett's, also, just to let you know that I hosted a meeting with CPED and members of the Chamber of Commerce, many builders. And for me, it was to make sure that I understand some of their, there's obviously some frustrations, some opportunities for us. So we had a great meeting.
When was this?
Last week. So to the point is that I'm going to be working with Josh to have periodic meetings with the group of builders. Just start listening what they have to do, just to provide a sounding board, and I'm going to be participating on that as well. So through that conversation, also not necessarily the third-party planners came as part of the conversation, but also the third-party reviewers of applications themselves. So we're going to be exploring that as well. So it's two things. It's the planning aspect and also the engineering review. And we're going to be exploring all that coming up. So, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I was gonna say, I've talked to you on some of this, so I know what you're talking about, okay.
And related to Dr. Burnett's, and you said nothing has happened. Yeah, and nothing has happened. And it was based on the priorities the board put on this particular items, and just never got to the point of the staff having the time to do that. That's a good question, whether he will be eligible for refund or not. I really don't have that question. I will answer that for you. But in the meantime, I will suggest that probably to trigger this to Dr. Burnett to submit a letter asking for reimbursement.
Okay.
I mean, and this, I think every citizen.
We don't have
has-
a policy with respect to that?
I don't know, but at least that formal request will put us in the position to formally respond to that request.
Okay.
And that will be the best avenue, I suggest, Commissioner.
Okay,
if I
I'll
may.
take, and I'll take care of that. I'll
He,
talk to
he
you.
can send a request, as any other citizen can ask for a request for reimbursement, if that is the,
Okay,
and at that point, we'll bring to you, the options of that request.
okay. Let me just follow up on something you said, was maybe it didn't get done because based on the priorities set by the Board of Commissioners, which I agree. But we base those on what staff can handle.
No, right,
And if they can't handle it, it doesn't move forward.
Right.
right.
That takes me back to third-party planners. Have you heard me talk about that before?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so kind of that's where I'm at on that issue. Okay, I have another issue, but I mean,
Go ahead.
I don't want to steal. You might have come up with something new since.
No, I don't. A couple others that I have, I'd really like to have Commissioner Mejia present, so.
Yeah, I have to say I would too.
As far as this morning goes, I think I'm good.
Okay, well, maybe then just a couple of simple ones, because the economic engine ties in with exactly what you're doing, you know, working with the master builders and whatever you've got going on. I think that building trust is of utmost importance. I can tell you that I don't know if we're gonna be trusted adequately. There's such confusion, and it has to do with, legal requirements from what, from Commerce or the Attorney General's office? Who told us we had to put certain verbiage in a medical thing that's going on the ballot? Who told us we had to talk to some attorneys?
Revenue, Department of Revenue.
Oh, Department of Revenue. Okay, so it's really kind of made that quite confusing to the public. I'm just, you
Oh,
know.
it was confusing for all of us.
Yeah, I know, okay, so trust is gonna be ever more important. That the public knows we're trying always to do the right thing for the public. So, enough said about that. Mr. Tibetan, you know, he's, told us different times, you know, why can't we get this right? But he did send a letter recently.
Thanking for the
Thanking
great
staff
support.
for,
We don't
staff
get that
and-
often, so.
Yeah, so I thought I'd mention that too, because I raise the dickens about that stuff a lot, and I want staff to know that when we do get stuff like that, you know, we recognize it, I think. Where are we at on, the census and what's coming up? Have we heard anything about census? It almost seems like I see stuff on the national news. Well, this state got a new congressman, this one lost one, and this state is growing, you know.
That's
where are we-
projections, that's projections.
Oh, it is, it's
Yeah.
not even based on real numbers
That's
yet?
projections. That's projections. So, and we are still waiting because the latest on the, when they're gonna be formally releasing the data is at the end of September. And in fact, related to the redistricting, I have already had a joint meeting with the executives of the Port of Olympia as well as the PUD, just to outline the whole process of redistricting. And in fact, they're gonna be presenting a briefing to the Port of Olympia commissioners on Monday.
Okay.
They will walk them through what we need to do. We were, you know, very direct with the two executives. The time is of the essence, and there's gonna be very tasking. In the past, 10 years ago, yes, it was several options that we presented as a county. And this time is gonna be very limited as to what we can do. And we presented the approaches we presented to the board, stating that perhaps some of the changes gonna be minimum, if we're gonna have to go by precinct. So we're not gonna be splitting precincts, and hopefully we can provide that information to you. But it's gonna be important to know, you know, the actual numbers before we can present a proposal to you. So we're moving forward on that, and as far as I know, no official. census.
Nothing, I mean, what, they're gonna release them all on the same day? They're not gonna,
Unless I missed something in the last week, Robin, but still waiting for the formal release of the census, which is scheduled for the end of September, if that is the case.
The state expects to receive the census data on September 30. And then the county will receive the data sometime after that.
is that gonna allow us the time to do what we need to do?
Well, it's tight.
Well, I don't think it can be done the way the law is written. It somehow isn't possible, is the way I kinda understood that.
I think we, I said, let me take you back when we presented to you this item in the schedule that we presented to you. It was very tight, as you said, and there's a couple of options, but I think we're committed to make it happen as soon as feasible.
Okay. So, food for thought. Okay.
15 minutes, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
The gift of time.
We will adjourn and we'll be back
At
1 p.m. for Superior Court?
Yep.
All right, good.
Okay.
Thank you.